Um, well, oh dear. All right, so where do we start here? Early this summer, I got into Warhammer and started building an army. Now, I've got a fair bit of terrain on hand that I've built over the years, but only a limited amount of stuff that really suits 40k. Obviously, my mind quickly wandered to building a crazy set of terrain to have epic battles on. The thing is, I knew I'd want to make a bunch of really detailed structures and have enough variety to do a lot of different setups. I also wanted enough buildings to be able to do a really large setup if, me and my friends could ever get together and do a huge battle. And it didn't take me long to realize that scratch building the amount of stuff that I wanted would be an insane undertaking, especially to get the amount of detail that I actually wanted on the structures. I didn't want just big formless concrete buildings. I thought about doing some sculpting and molding and casting, or maybe doing some stuff with 3D printing. But both of those would still be crazy time investments and really tedious. In the end, I decided that I really just wanted the biggest bang for my buck time-wise. This led me to looking into kits that were readily available on the market. And I looked at a lot of different companies and different kits and options. MDF kits were a strong contender, but I knew that they would still be lacking some of that sculptural detail that I wanted. I really wanted to create this massive industrial kind of factory wasteland. I wanted a Death Guard inspired set of ruins. Eventually, I found the Rampart system. This is by Archon Studios. It's literally designed to make big multi-level structures. But I want to make something really clear. I didn't choose these sets because they paid me to do so or to make this video. I browsed everything on the market and I decided that these were the best fit for me. And then I reached out to them and asked them if they wanted to help me do this. And they were kind enough to send me these kits for free. But keep in mind that I likely could have done the same thing with any company or kits that I felt worked best. These are the ones that I legitimately decided that I would get and use whether or not they were willing to send them to me. But here's the problem with kits. Even though it's going to save me a lot of time building, there's still an insane task of removing thousands of pieces from plastic sprues before you can even start to think about assembling. I came up with this plan months ago and have actually been sitting on these kits for the better part of the year. I had planned and carved out some time at the end of the year to dedicate to this personal project. My plan from the start was to include a bunch of my buddies in the process, maybe sit around, drink some beers, and tackle this mountain of prep work. But our COVID situation has gone completely out of control where I live in the past month or so, and we are in the hardest lockdown yet. I can't safely or legally have any guests in my house. Despite this, I really needed to get this project started, so I nervously jumped into this daunting task all by myself. I wanted to get as much pre-snipped as possible so that when it came time to actually build the structures, I could just really get into it and go wild without interruption. I decided it would be smart to unbox all of the core sets and organize the sprues into various piles. This made me feel a little less anxious and a bit more in control of what I inherently knew was a very daunting task. And then I got to work snipping. I'm not gonna lie, this was really terrifying at the start. I started to panic a little bit about just how much I had to do. Thankfully, like with most tasks, after I spent a bit of time doing it, I started to find efficiencies. And with really repetitive tasks, efficiencies snowball and become very, very important. For one, doing all of the same sprue in groups meant that I could quickly learn the most efficient and easy way to remove the various pieces from that sprue. And trust me, not all sprues were the same in this regard. Some were really fast and some were painfully slow. One great thing that I learned is that with a lot of the pieces, I could simply snap them out of the frame. This was great on the sprues that just had big wall sections, but not really useful on the ones with lots of smaller pieces. I know removing pieces this way is a bit sacrilegious, but the reality is that these pieces would be used to construct big industrial ruins. And little nubs of plastic or broken parts really would not harm the finish of the outcome in any way. And doing this likely increased my productivity tenfold, which was absolutely worth it. Not to mention, it was just less annoying to do than using the clippers. Sure, some of the edges would need a knife swipe during assembly if any large chunks were left on them, but the amount of time and effort this saved versus snipping each tiny contact point cannot be overstated here. And as I was doing this, I was able to organize the pieces using the boxes that they came in. Each box was filled with the same or similar pieces. Knowing that the next stage of actually building would be so fun, especially with this organization in place, was a huge motivator for keeping me going all day doing this mind-numbing task. By midday, I was way farther ahead than I expected, and this gave me a great mental boost to keep powering through what was such a repetitive and tedious and boring and hand-cramping and just not a fun task. My burst of excitement and motivation over fast progress was quickly halted though when I got to one sprue in particular, the one containing the pillars and the little tiny caps for the connection points. There were a lot of these, and for the most part, they needed to be snipped. And they had a lot of contact points to snip on each one. The stack of these, I think 24 sprues or so, took probably the same amount of time as all of the other sprues, which numbered over 100. I seriously spent 4 hours tackling this one pile of 24 godforsaken sprues. All right, this is where I've ended up after one day, and I've actually got way more accomplished in that day than I expected I would. 8 hours straight, that's all I did yesterday, was snip these pieces out. Actually, last night in bed when I was holding my phone watching something and I was dozing off to sleep, I realized my hand was subconsciously trying to squeeze the phone like a pair of nippers. I really wanted to get all of this stuff cut out and get a whole bunch of stuff actually assembled in one video. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do, and I was well on my way to do it. But I realized late yesterday that these core sets were actually missing the sprues that have the little connection pegs to assemble stuff. These sets can be assembled with magnets. If you want modular sets, you can put magnets in all of the holes and just kind of plug and play and move stuff around. I want to build solid structures, and if you do that, they come with little plastic pegs you can use to assemble them, and they're missing. Couldn't I just glue them together without the pegs? Technically, I probably could, but it would be a much more difficult process. The pegs would be really useful for holding things together while that glue cures, especially because I want to use plastic cement to get really strong bonds. It was going to take 10 times longer to assemble if I don't have those pegs. I want to be able to lift them up and move them around, and I don't want them being under tension or whatever, sag when I pick them up and potentially break. Those pegs are going to be really important. I reached out to Archon Studios, and they're actually sending me the pegs today. I don't know how long they're going to take to get here. You know, there's going to be people suggesting that I look online, get some plastic dowel rods or wood dowels or whatever. The thing is, it's going to have to be a very specific size, and I'd want to test fit it in person to know if it works. And right now we are doing lockdown on hard mode, and you can literally just buy medicine and food in clothing in the stores. I cannot go to a store to check for dowels that will fit this. I could order something online, but it might not work. I'm sure the ones that the company's sending me are gonna get here just as fast as ones I might order off Amazon or whatever. It's gonna have to be what it is, and I'll have to revisit this in another video where I assemble stuff and then ultimately paint it in another video. I hope you enjoyed this video, despite really me not accomplishing much other than a really long, tedious task. But I hope it was entertaining and interesting. Nonetheless, if you liked it, hit the like button, let me know in the comment section. Hopefully next time is gonna be even better. I'm gonna build this crazy city. If you wanna pick up any tools and supplies, you can do so at blackmagicraft.ca. My Essential Equipment page is a great resource for people getting into the hobby, or people who've been around for a while just looking for something new to add to their collection. Shopping through that channel helps Shopping through that page helps support this channel
by using those links. Another way you can support this channel is by joining the Blackmagic Craft Fellowship on Patreon. I'd love to have you as the newest member there. That support allows me to spend entire days snipping hundreds of sprues. 132 sprues yesterday, to be exact. What a weird job. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you again next week. Cheers.